all month, have you? If you left your bookmarker in place, you're already right there. Because it will have been Matthew. And chapter 1 doesn't take a full page, so my bookmarker's in the right place. So we're Matthew chapter 2, verses 1 through 18. After Jesus was born in Bethlehem in Judea, during the time of King Herod, Magi from the east came to Jerusalem and asked, "Where is the one who has been born, King of the Jews? We saw his star in the east and have come to worship him." When Herod heard this, he was disturbed, and all Jerusalem with him. When he had called together all the people's chief priests and teachers of the law, he asked them whether Christ was to be born. "In Bethlehem in Judea," they replied. For this is what the prophet has written. "For you, O Bethlehem, in the land of Judah, are by no means least among the rulers of Judah. For out of you will come a ruler who will shepherd the people of Israel." Then Herod called the Magi secretly and found out from them the exact time the star had appeared. He sent them to Bethlehem and said, "Go and make a careful search for the child. As soon as you find him, report to me so that I may go and worship him." After they had heard the king, they went on their way, and the star they had seen in the east went ahead of them, until it stopped over the place where the child was. When they saw the star, they were overjoyed. On coming to the house, they saw the child with his mother Mary. They bowed down and worshipped him. Then they opened their treasures and presented him with gifts of gold and of incense and of myrrh. And having been warned in a dream not to go back to Herod, they returned to their country by another route. When they had gone, the angel of the Lord appeared to Joseph in a dream. "Get up," he said. "Take the child and his mother and escape to Egypt. Stay there until I tell you, for Herod is going to search for the child and kill him." So he got up, took the child and his mother during the night, and left for Egypt, where he stayed until the death of Herod. And so was fulfilled what the Lord had said through the prophet, "Out of Egypt I called my son." When Herod realized that he had been outwitted by the Magi, he was furious. And he gave orders to kill all the boys in Bethlehem in its vicinity who were 2 years old and under, in accordance with the time he had learned from the Magi. Then what was said through the prophet Jeremiah was fulfilled. A voice was heard in Ramah, weeping in great mourning, Rachel weeping for her children and refusing to be comforted, because they are no more. Now the night Christ was born was probably not an ordinary, quiet Bethlehem night. If you remember what was happening, I think it was read earlier. We read a lot of stuff earlier. I don't always remember. But everybody was showing up in town for a census. They had to count the people, and everything was full. And it probably made matters worse. The only reason, you know why the only reason government ever counts the census? Because they want to know how much they want in taxes. They need to know how many of us there are, how much they need to take from all of us. They want taxes. That's what the census is for. And just in case they decide to overthrow them, they can know what they're up against. And so that's just my opinion. But there wasn't any room. Bethlehem was so full. There wasn't any room. In the end, there was no room. And then so they couldn't even find for this family, husband, wife, and soon-to-come baby. Instead, they found a manger. While all was frantic in Bethlehem, somehow in this little manger, a little baby was going to be born. He was going to change the course of history forever. The most controversial thing that ever happened in the history of the world was about to transpire in this little town. Do you realize how controversial Jesus is? Do you realize how much controversy can come up? Just mention his name. Just say the name Jesus. And controversy happens. A king was about to be born with a capital K. Capital K king was about to be born. Not just any king, the king of kings and Lord of lords. Now we assume that the birth of a king would be really extravagant, wouldn't it? I mean, when big time people have kids, you hear about it, right? You know, whether you want to or not. You know, what the Prince of England's having a baby and the world has to know. I don't care. It happens all the time, right? And who cares? But they got to tell you, they got to know. And so you assume all the elite people in society would be there. After all, kings are special. They require special treatment. But instead, the announcement of the birth of the king is announced by the angels to shepherds who were tending. The shepherds are dirty guys. Do you realize how often the shepherd takes a bath? Like never, right? They just don't. They don't. But that's who the angels go to announce the news to. No excitement, no royalty, no fanfare, just a simple carpenter, a simple woman, and a baby in a manger, which is, it's a feeding trough for cows. How's that for a king coming into the world? And in tonight's scripture, we read that Jesus was born in Bethlehem. Herod was the king, so he thought. And Herod wasn't a really nice guy. You read about Herod, you don't get the impression this is some guy you want to go visit and hang out with and talk to. But like most kings of his day, he was just downright furious. And when he heard there was another news of another king born in town, well, that just didn't really make his day. See, the Magi figured, and these Magi, they're smart guys, that's why they call them wise men. They figured if the king was going to be born, it would be born in the palace. That's what they thought. And the current king would somehow know about it, because it was probably his son. And so that's why they went. Herod didn't really know about it. So he called together the Jewish folks, and he said, hey, what's going on? They told him about Bethlehem. And so Herod sends the Magi off on his covert operation to find the child. Let me know what's going on. I want to worship him too. Anybody believe that for a minute, that the king wants to worship somebody? No. He's got other issues. The Bible tells us he was disturbed. And that can be taken more than one way. He was really disturbed. Herod, he really wants to destroy this king, because there can't be two kings, can there? There just can't be two kings. It just wasn't going to work. So the Magi, they went off and they found the baby. And they found Joseph, and they found Mary, and they worshipped him, and they gave him the gifts that they had brought for him. The gold, the frankincense, the myrrh, the best stuff their land could offer. The very best. The best of the best. And God knew what Herod was up to. So he spoke to the Magi. He showed the Magi in a dream. Hopefully you dreamed. Maybe God speaks to you that way. But he spoke to the Magi that way, in a dream. Don't go back to Herod, he told them. And so they went home a different way. I'm not sure how traveling was back in those days. But if you're going to go here, well, you're going to leave here and go someplace, and you're going to try to come back, there aren't really that many different ways you can do it that are convenient. And in those days, they didn't have roads and cars. They walked. And I can be a climber in about 9 minutes. I can do better than that, but I don't want to tell you. I have to repent. But how long would it take to walk to climber? Anybody know? Yeah, I've never done it. I'll bike home from climbing. It takes longer than not quite climbing, but close. It takes longer than you want it to take. And so, but they go back a different route would be burdensome. But they listened to God. And because they figured he knew what he was talking about. And God also spoke to Joseph in a dream and said, hey, take the boy, take his mother, and get out of town. Herod's going to try to kill him. And go, of all places, to Egypt. Egypt, of all places. Pull out your map. Find Bethlehem. Not right now. On your own time. And find Egypt. It's not that far. But that far equals a lot. And Joseph took Mary and Jesus, and they went to Egypt. And when Herod realized the Magi kind of outwitted him, so he wasn't a happy camper. He killed every other kid in Bethlehem. That's just mean. That's just mean. Now this should sound familiar. This story ought to sound familiar. There's parallel here. It should sound familiar. You know, the Israelites spent 400 years in hard bondage in Egypt, of all places. And when Moses was born to deliver the people from bondage, the Pharaoh tried to do what? Tried to kill him by having every baby in town killed. You see, because Jesus was being compared to Moses, that he's better than Moses. Moses just led the people out of Egypt, which was pretty cool. But Jesus is going to lead us and set us free from the bondage of sin, which is a way, way, way far worse slave master than the mud pits of Egypt could ever have been. He was born king of the Jews, not because they elected him king. They didn't show up to vote. This wasn't subject to vote. And not because he won a war and appointed himself king, but because Almighty God ordained him to be king of the Jews and to bring salvation to the world. So why does this bother Herod so much? What could a little baby possibly do to him? You've seen little babies, they're harmless. Right? They're harmless. You know, if I was going to war against a bunch of little babies, I dare say it, I wouldn't have to call any friends. I have to take care of it. He's threatened by this baby. Big time. The most powerful man in the world, right? Threatened by a baby. But Jesus wasn't an ordinary baby, was he? The prophets foretold his birth and foretold the salvation of the Jewish people and of all people. And if Herod was outdone by a Jewish king, he'd be out of a job. And he'd have none of that. You see, Jesus threatened his reason for living. That's what Jesus does. And we can read in the Gospels how many times Jesus would preach and teach, and people would want to pick up stones and try to kill him. And they wanted to kill him. But he escaped because they were threatened by what he said or how he behaved. He threatened their way of life because he talked of a better way, a way of living free from sin. All those people in Scripture that tried later on to try to kill Jesus don't have anything on Herod. Jesus never did anything to Herod. Herod never heard him preach. Jesus was simply born. Okay, he showed up. God showed up, and that was enough to make Herod have a fit. You see, there's something about Jesus that bothers people, doesn't it? There's just something about him that bothers them. I told you, say his name. The most controversial thing you could say anymore is Jesus. The world is trying to remove God from this way of life because they just don't believe what God has to say. And they tried to remake God in this goofy, weirdo image that he just, that everything's good. You know, it's all good, right? Sometimes that expression is pretty cool, but sometimes it's not. The world has the same problem Herod did. Jesus is a threat to their way of life. He's threatening their reason for living. I mean, what's your reason for living? I mean, what is our reason for living? Why, when you wake up in the morning, why do you bother to get out of bed? Some days you scratch your head and say, Mom, I'll tell you, I'll beat you halfway. I won't bother getting out of bed. You know, and so I'm not ready for that. But when something threatens your way of life, you try to eliminate it. That's the human reaction. That'll take care of the problem, wouldn't it? Oh, because the problem can't be me. Certainly I can't be the problem in this situation. It must be somebody else. So we'll just fix it. That's what Herod thought. And scared of Jesus. I don't have a problem. Because Jesus pointed out the problem. Well, the problem's still there whether Jesus pointed it out or not. Sin's a problem. And Herod thought, that's what the Pharisees thought. That's what Pontius Pilate thought. And they were all wrong. And the question we need to ask ourselves this Christmas, and really every day, is when Jesus shows up. How do we greet him? Herod was ready to kill him. You know, Herod was ready to kill him. And eventually, Herod got his way. It wasn't him anymore, it was somebody else. But eventually, they all got through it. When Jesus walks into our lives and he had an opportunity to do service for his kingdom, how do we greet him? We probably don't go quite as far as Herod did. I don't think any of us has ever tried to kill Jesus. But how often have we looked the other way and kind of, well, maybe tomorrow. But for now, I've got to do it this way, Jesus. Or how often have we given a half-hearted effort so that we hear that we're serving him? I just go along with this for a little bit just to make people think that I stick my nose in church every now and then, and people think I'm a Christian. And on the other hand, how often have we taken our very best? You know, the Magi in the story, the very best of what we have, and going out of our way to give Jesus the very best of what we have in our own. He isn't asking for anything specific, he's just asking for our best. And I gotta tell you, sometimes my best doesn't feel good enough, but as long as it's my best, God's happy with it. He gave it all to us. He gave it all to us. I've said this before, and I'll probably say it again. The reason we give to God isn't because he needs it. The reason we give to God is because we need to be like him. Because he gave to us. He came into the world to die on the cross to save us from our sin. That's the baby in the manger that we put behind the altar for now. It should be sitting right there, and it's okay. The baby in the manger is God, the Son of the living God. And the biggest mistake we can make is to think that we're more important than we really are. Jesus is king. Not Herod, not any other elected official, not any other appointed anybody is king. Well, they sure think they are, though, don't they? They sure do think they are. Yeah. They could have it. They could have it. We've got a king in the manger. How are we greeting that king in our lives? Let's pray. Father God, we sing, yea, Lord, we greet thee, born this happy morning. And we pray, Lord, that you would change our hearts, Lord, as necessary, Lord, that we greet you with open arms and say, yeah, Jesus, love me. Thank you for loving me, even though, Lord, sometimes I stink. Sometimes I'm bad. Lord, you love me anyhow, love me enough to die for my stink, for my badness. And you came here for me. You came here for us, and we greet you, we welcome you. Lord, not like Herod, not like the Pharisees or anybody, but like the Magi, like the shepherds, like Joseph and Mary. Be born in our hearts, Lord, this night. Lord, we pray in your name. Amen.